Arsenic missile, a new strategic threat. A new Russian missile, designated Arsenic, is causing significant concern in Western defense circles. Introduced in December 2025, it represents the first intermediate-range ballistic missile deployed in Europe since the Cold War-era treaties of the 1980s. The weapon has reportedly been combat-tested twice in Ukraine, including a major strike in the Lviv region on January 8th. Extended range. Recent Western intelligence assessments indicate the missile's range may be as high as 5,500 kilometers, far exceeding initial estimates. If launched from Russia's Arctic regions, this range could place targets across the continental United States, including Washington, D.C. and Chicago, within striking distance. Conventional payload. The missile's defining feature is its payload flexibility. Unlike traditional intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, designed for nuclear warheads, the Arsenic can be armed with conventional, non-nuclear weapons. This capability provides Russia with its first-ever conventional strike option against the U.S. mainland. Advanced penetration. Each missile carries 6 hypersonic glide vehicles capable of high-speed, maneuverable flight, making them exceptionally difficult for existing missile defense systems to intercept. This shifts the strategic equation, as Russia's previous non-nuclear options against the U.S. relied on slower cruise missiles. Strategic impact. Analysts warn the operational deployment of the Arsenic marks the beginning of a new era of mutual vulnerability, forcing a re-evaluation of deterrence doctrines, escalation risks, and global strategic stability. Naval escorts and tanker seizures, a maritime confrontation. Simultaneously, U.S.-Russia tensions have escalated in a high-stakes maritime confrontation, highlighting a clash over sanctions enforcement and freedom of navigation. Russian naval escort. On January 9th, open-source intelligence tracked a Russian Navy destroyer, the Severomorsk, escorting 2 sanctioned civilian cargo vessels, Sparta 4th and Mai Gilanya, south of Portugal, near NATO's southern flank. While the ships declared Egypt as their destination, their historical tracking data suggests final destinations are Russia's naval base in Tartus, Syria, and potentially Libya. The high-level naval escort indicates the cargo is strategically or militarily sensitive. The U.S. tanker seizure. This show of force followed a direct U.S. seizure days earlier. U.S. forces under a federal warrant captured the Russian-flagged oil tanker MV Bella 1, aka Marinara, in the North Atlantic after a prolonged pursuit. The tanker is part of a shadow fleet moving oil for sanctioned states like Venezuela, Russia, and Iran. The operation involved a U.S. Coast Guard cutter and a helicopter-assisted boarding. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegarty affirmed the administration's policy that the blockade against sanctioned Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world. During the incident, a Russian submarine and warship were operating nearby, creating a tense backdrop. Second seizure and U.S. justification. In a related action, U.S. forces also seized the Panama-flagged supertanker M. Sophia in the Caribbean. U.S. officials, including Homeland Security Advisor Christy Gunn, framed these actions as part of a historic global campaign to enforce sanctions. They argued this pressure is already yielding results, noting that interim Venezuelan authorities are now seeking to reclaim the seized oil through a deal, understanding that cooperation with the U.S. is their only path to legally export oil and avoid economic collapse. Russian reaction. Moscow condemned the seizure of the Marinara as a blatant violation of international law and a challenge to its sovereignty, demanding humane treatment for the Russian crew members. Russia's foreign ministry argued the tanker was operating lawfully and accused the U.S. of applying disproportionate force against a civilian vessel. Conclusion. These parallel developments underscore a dangerously escalatory phase in U.S.-Russia relations. On one front, Russia is demonstrating a new weapons system that extends its conventional strike threat directly to the U.S. homeland. On another, both nations are engaged in tense naval brinkmanship, testing the limits of sanctions enforcement and maritime rights on the open seas, pushing their standoff into a dangerously volatile chapter.
Just today, our forces not deployed to the Caribbean seized a boat, a sanctioned boat tied to the IRGC that tried to flee from us. That happened somewhere else. We are constantly involved in action. We have boats in the Mediterranean, we have ships in the Middle East, we have ships in the Indo-Pacific. These ships, if they weren't in the Caribbean, they'd be somewhere else conducting activity. Yeah. That's what the Navy does.
I want to emphasize that question from CNN. The question's never asked how much does it cost when they're in the Mediterranean or the Red Sea or the Indian Ocean or the Pacific. But now that they're in our hemisphere, on a counter-cartel mission or ensuring that an indicted individual comes to justice, now you're asking the question of cost. It's a disingenuous question to begin with. You're trying to find any angle possible to undermine the success of one of the most historic military missions the world has ever seen. The level of sophistication that Senate just was briefed on, and the House was briefed on, a classified level, is something only the United States of America can accomplish. The world is taking notice of that. Certainly Venezuela is taking notice of that. And it continues because two oil tankers, two overnight, were seized by the United States of America, stateless or sanctioned, because the oil blockade, the quarantine of oil out of unsanctioned or stateless, sanctioned or stateless vessels continues. That leverage will continue as Secretary Rubio outlined. So our military is prepared to continue this. As he said, the president, when he speaks, he means it. He's not messing around. We are an administration of action to advance our interests, and that is on full display. We're happy to brief the House.
No. Two quick things. Okay, number one, because we have to go, because we got to brief the House, and if we don't and they're pissed at us, you guys better defend us. That was because we were talking to you. I would make one more point, and it's a very interesting point. One of those ships that was seized that had oil in the Caribbean, you know what the interim authorities are asking for in Venezuela? They want that oil that was seized to be part of this deal. They understand that the only way they can move oil and generate revenue and not have economic collapse is if they cooperate and work with the United States, and that's what we see are going to happen. We got to go talk to the House.